So I invite you to pause for just a moment and think about what does the phrase, "this is a safe space," mean to you? A minute ago, Connie described some of the ways that we can build feelings of emotional safety in our lives, in particular spaces, perhaps around your home. In the educational community and in faith communities, safe space usually means that this is a place where we can talk about what's on our heart and mind without judgment. As I dug in a little more this week, I found that phrase, safe space, comes from the 1970s women's and LGBT movements. It was originally used to name physical meeting spaces where like-minded people could meet and share their experiences in a safe environment. In recent years, those of you who have worked in education know that the term has mostly been used there as safe space policies have been adopted to prevent discrimination, harassment, or threats. The origin of the concept was to protect marginalized groups from hatred. And now creating safe spaces does some important things beyond just being nice, which is a really good thing to do. First, they provide space for groups to recuperate and to reconvene and to strategize their resistance. They aren't a place for retreat so much as a place for discerning the best response to the world. The second thing the carving out of safe spaces does is it creates the opportunity where marginalized people can make visible their individual and collective traumas that are so often erased by the world. I know this all sounds very theoretical so far, so I want to describe a couple of instances that came up in the past few months at Tapestry to bring this closer to home. The first one relates to the LGBTQ+ action group. In preparation for the worship service that we were leading in June, we talked about different readings that we might use. The big challenge was that the reading that most accurately reflected our experience was quite forward. And it used a word that turns my stomach, a word that I never anticipated using from the pulpit. It used the word faggot. I only use that word because I am a gay man. I choose not to give voice to derogatory names for other groups. It's too difficult to anticipate the impact of those words, even when I have good intentions. I choose not to give voice to derogatory names for other groups. It's too difficult to anticipate the impact of those words, even when I have good intentions. The point of all this is, we thought long and hard about sharing with the congregation something that reflected how we really felt. It was a risk that we barely took. And the risk wasn't about a particular word. The risk was about expressing genuine fear and anger that had been a part of many of our lives. It's sometimes hard to tell if there is space for fear and anger to be honestly expressed. More recently, just last week, as a matter of fact, as the worship associate, Celia spoke about the hate that she had experienced as an Asian American. She included derogatory slang and specific descriptions of violence that had occurred to others that she feared. And there was discomfort in this room. Some of this discomfort was a sense of concern and compassion for Celia. I think some of the discomfort was also caused by the frankness of her honest language. So I want to return to the question that I asked earlier. What does it mean to you when I say this is a safe space? For many of us, for most of us, safe space means a place that is calm, supportive, and where people speak to each other in a tone almost exactly as I'm speaking now, regardless of what's happening. Without thinking about it, we think of a safe space where our own culture's communication style is represented. Now, communication style is a very vague phrase, so I'm going to give you some examples of what that includes. Communication style includes tone, volume, and speed of speech. It's the use of eye contact, the use of pauses or silence, facial expressiveness or emotional expressiveness, self-disclosure, formality, directness. All of those aspects of communication vary from culture to culture. And unless we have a lot of experience in another culture, encountering someone who enacts a big difference in any one of those styles can feel very strange and even unsafe. We all want Tapestry to be a place that feels safe. I consider it actually to be a huge part of our mission. Creating a spiritual home where we feel comfortable enough to open ourselves to growth. I also deeply hope that we know that safe can look different and feel different for different people. Some people need a space where they can know that their anger can be expressed and it will be held. Some people need a space where quiet and calm permeate every encounter. Others of us need literal silence. And I know silence drives some of you up the walls. Building safe space and welcoming all who would join us is a bit of a paradox. Or maybe it's more of a dance that we learn to do together. Last week, we talked a lot about physical safety here at Tapestry and went over some of the policies related to that. Those probably weren't a surprise. Any organization of our size needs to have some basic safety policies. You may not know, we also have policies that help us navigate right relationship, with the goal of Tapestry being a safer place for everyone. There are a few that we should know about that I want to run over today. One is a covenant of right relations, and we don't talk about this very much, probably because it seems a little bit obvious, but it should probably be in print more often. So we have it on the screens here because it's a bit wordy. Our covenant of right relations states, "In pursuit of the ideals of a beloved community which support our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles," I told you it was wordy, "and to promote constructive relations among ourselves at Tapestry, we covenant to treat one another with respect and civility, live with integrity and responsibility, cultivate openness and transparency, and make official decisions through the democratic process." Like I said, it seems pretty obvious. Still, we might find more places to print it. The second policy that I wanted you all to know about with regard to safety is the conflict resolution process. This is worth sharing because, like all of that physical safety we talked about, this is good practice in the outside world as well, beyond Tapestry. So the steps for our conflict resolution process are: 1, personal reflection. Examine your own role in the conflict. You might also ask, why is this so important to me? Step 2, take time. Sleep on things before acting impulsively. You might even get a reality check from a third party or a friend to see if that observation makes sense to them. Step 3, seek to understand the other person. Now, you don't have to agree with someone, but we are always called to attempt to understand someone else's good intentions. Step 4, address the concern directly. It's pretty obvious, talking directly with the person, probably not on Sunday morning in front of everyone else. You might set up another time and place to do that. And step 5, seek assistance. If needed, those in conflict are encouraged to contact the Right Relations team, myself, or the board. You're probably wondering, who is this Right Relations team? Well, the members of the Right Relations team are Celia Young, Keith Twominen, and Richard Lappin. Celia and Keith, can you wave your hands? Perfect. They're right up there. So please keep in mind that order is very specific for a reason, and I'll get those in the newsletter or somewhere else where we can see them again. So as I thought more about communication styles and cultural difference this week, I was reminded of learning styles. And we all know this one by now. Some people are visual learners, others learn better by hearing information. Some of us need to move our bodies, and others can absorb best by reading or writing. And I often regret that we don't do a better job in our worship incorporating more of those variety of styles. I default to spoken words because that's the easiest and that's the habit. I land there out of habit. But that's not a bad thing. But there's a much bigger world out there. There are wonderful ways of knowing and expressing ourselves, ways of being together that we can learn from. We recently resumed a piece of our worship service called Compassionate Connections. This was just the second time we've done it since we took a break for, 3 years. This happens about once a month. It began from the observations and suggestions of a previous intern minister. It was created, and we continue it with a specific goal of providing a more embodied and emotionally rooted opportunity for our worship. It's an opportunity to speak directly with someone about what's going on and to get a personal blessing from them. So I thought it's worth pausing, especially in our community, to define blessing. A blessing is not a prayer. A blessing doesn't name any particular theology or God. And a blessing does not offer the impossible promise that everything will be okay. What a blessing is as an acknowledgement of what's in your heart. It's a reminder of the strength and resources that you do have. It's a lifting up of your concern to the universe and naming our shared hopes and joys for comfort and healing wherever it is possible. That one-on-one type of emotional, spiritual encounter isn't for everyone, but some people are hungry for it. Some of us need to be seen and heard in a way that reconnects us with the web of life. If you aren't sure, but you think it might feed your spirit, give it a try. If you know it's not for you, that's cool too. We thank you for staying seated and enjoying the music. We've been talking a lot about safety for the past couple of weeks, but the theme of the month is actually paradox. Creating safety can be complicated, counterintuitive, even paradoxical. Physical safety isn't all about weapons and walls. We can build physical safety through building relationships and reaching out to our neighbors. Similarly, creating emotionally safe space isn't just about requiring everyone to express themselves the same way all the time. Our work is to create space where there is enough trust to hold a variety of forms of expression and to learn from one another. That can feel scary and unsafe sometimes, But I believe it's a dance that we can lean into together. With a little courage and balance and wisdom, we can create ways of hearing each other's complicated stories. With bravery, we can begin to share images and dreams, both really scary and really beautiful. All windows to deeper truth. Amen.